Glad to have you back. Now, on 6th of April 2023, the lower chamber of the National Assembly, which is Nigeria's House of Representatives, caused an uproar by starting the bill that has entered a second reading, which is about banning medical graduates from being able to travel out of the country until after 5 years of practicing in the country. This means that as medical practitioners, you would need a special license to practice in the country, and you will practice for 5 years before you can be given another license that would allow you travel to practice overseas. Now, this particular bill, like I said before, has caused an uproar across the country from with both youths and adults alike. Now, to discuss this morning, joining us is Ademola Oyetunji. Good morning, Mr. Ademola.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good to have you here.
How are you today, sir?
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
Good to have you on Daybreak again.
Now,
thank you.
right. Now, only doctors who have worked for the government for 5 years will be granted licenses and permitted to practice abroad. Now, we've seen the introduction to this particular bill, although the time of the 9th Assembly is about to elapse, but then anything could still happen because this particular bill has passed the second reading. Now, do you even see it being feasible? Do you see it happening that the bill passes the third reading and is approved and signed into law by the president?
Yeah, it's just that they just want to while away time.
Okay.
While away time, what do you mean by that?
You know that the majority of them will not come back. You know, the 9th Assembly, they have less than, let's say, a month.
Just about a month, yeah.
And just to be relevant in the political scene. That's the reason why that kind of bill can come at this point in time. And a bill was actually sponsored by one of the legislators, Nigerian NAS. I think that's the man is actually, it's a lower chamber as well. And they throw that bill out. You ask me what's the bill about? The bill is about that every political office holder, be you appointed or by election, your children, your ward, it's not even your children, anybody related to you should school in Nigeria. Now, these people that are now they are not sponsoring, they want to pass an act. Because when, of course, a bill passed through second reading and all of that, the Senate will, and pass it to the Mr. President and Mr. President for assent. It becomes an act. They are joking. Because their own children are what? Their family member, they don't school in Nigeria. So why suddenly they now know that we're having brain drain in that space of the earth?
But the brain drain is quite clear. It's clear to everybody that
we are still going to have
people
more.
Are traveling out of the country.
We are still going to have more. Not only
but don't you think in a way it might be of advantage to the masses? In a way.
The NANs are not in any way representing us.
But they were elected by the people. That's a very big statement.
I'm a Nigerian.
Yes.
And I tell you to my own opinion.
Of course, absolutely.
And this is actually a national TV, national program. But we have to say the way it is. Journalists, you can't say what I'm saying because of the code of different kinds. And the NBC will come, and all of that. But the thing is, if they are representing the basic amenities that is necessary, the basic facility necessary, that means that these doctors needed. Time without number, these doctors, they've come out to say, we don't even have tools to work with. You are not paying us well, one. We don't have even tools. We don't have good atmosphere to work. And all of those things, they are not issue to our NAS. Now, it's now to hold them down. That is not the issue. I mean, who does that?
Let me quote Honorable Ganiyu Johnson, the member who actually proposed the bill. He said, "Government has invested so much money in training these medical doctors on the average. Recently, the United Kingdom opened healthcare visa to people. They are all going to UK, US, Canada. So we should fold our hands." He said, going further, he said, so to give back to our society after training you, the least we can get from you after your housemanship before you're given full license, you practice for 5 years before you go. Now, if you look at this perspective, it's not just saying to curb brain drain. It's like saying we trained you. We spent
I want
money
to ask that
on
question that I want to...
Can we really say that the government trained them?
That's the question I want to ask my brother.
He's the one asking the
question. I was going
Yeah.
to that, actually.
See, I want to ask that honorable. It should give us... you should be able to analyze the issue of investment in these medical practitioners. How? When you say you invest, how? Is it that you subsidize their school fees? And I know quite well the Nigeria state that we have today, they are not interested in how you become anything you become. It's none of their business. As a matter of fact, even when you have the money, even to go to the school, you still see, now we just ended about 2 years strike of ASU.
Yes.
About 8 months.
Oh, when you see the cumulative,
yeah.
the other 4 months, this one,
I mean, it's
2 years.
Like 2 years.
So a course of 7 years will now be 10 years at the end of the day, and you are still saying these people. Why will people not? Why are we not sincere? That's the reason why I said they are not representing. If they are representing, they will know what is the need of the people. Well, they might be saying that because of our healthcare, we need the practitioners to be around and all of these things. But the question that honorable is here to answer is that the investment he mentioned, how? Is it that they bought them books as subsidy to their education? Or bursary.
The school fees is subsidized.
So or bursary. I don't know, because I know quite well that it's not easy in Nigeria financing education. A medicine student. It's not easy, and I know I have a family friend. Of course, I don't think I will say I don't want to be affirmative here. I don't think government actually is doing anything to subsidize their education.
Actually, the federal government would probably argue that, because by the time you look at the cost of education, or do I say the basic tuition fee, not the cost of education, I think that would be too far-fetched. Let's just say the basic tuition fee of university in the federal universities. Now, I'm not talking about the state universities. They might say, oh, okay, some universities pay as low as 10,500 or 20,000. So to them, because there was a time a certain senator had actually said, can you compare it to the 3 million, 4 million you guys pay when you travel outside the country to study? So to them, it might be some form of subsidy, and investment. So the federal government and many of these politicians might actually argue the fact as to whether they have invested really in the education of medical students. But then what I want us to redirect the conversation into now is how effective this proposed bill would be. And that's because you look at it, an average Nigerian, we said something before we started the conversation, which is that we don't have persistence as Nigerians. Now, an average Nigerian would probably just be like 5 years. That's not a problem. I would just study, I would work with maybe General Hospital, Mobi or whatever for 5 years, and we'll still travel. Because most people would even see it as an opportunity to save the needed money for that travel.
As if they are being paid.
And to also gather the experience.
If they are being paid. Now, do you even see, let's even assume that, okay, this bill is maybe, let's not assume that maybe it's okay, but let's assume that it happens. Would it really curb what the senator the honorable is trying to avoid?
Like I said, the honorable sponsoring this bill, I don't know whether the man is actually coming back, for 10 assembly.
Yeah.
But if it's not, he just wants to gain relevance. For me, that honorable, if we can scrutinize his ward and children now, they are not schooling in Nigeria. So if you have to lead by example, and that's the reason why I said the bill that one will have been a good thing, and we now, based on that one, you now say this should come. They throw it out. You need to see the opera on the floor that day. I know you follow the procedure. See, the thing is, had it been that one, the former one, saying that all the political appointee and elected officers of they award their children should attend Nigeria university, public, not even private, public Nigeria, so that you see they will be more serious funding education. Yeah, yes, that's it. If Nigeria is serious about education in Nigeria, we are not going to be going on strike for months for all of the, and a lot of issues surrounding our education. Like we have said it on this platform, even our education is not actually not tailored to solving problems. Now, one of the things is, yes, this same medical student, you see, they go, as far as even studying, I mean, on their own, spending extra costs to be relevant in their field. So
something that should have been offered to them normally while studying. But then you have to just go the extra mile to get better.
I'm a management person, I'm a bit of art anyway. But even when we are in school, my own discipline now, irrelevant courses were being mandated to, we have to undergo and still pass, because the education, I think Honorable Ghani should please find something.
And don't you think medical practitioners would actually find a way around this? Because naturally, if you look at perhaps the immigration process, the student immigration process currently being operated by a lot of countries, you'd find that you have to submit a statement of purpose, just to prove that you have the fund to actually fund your education. But most times we've seen cases where people actually just bring dummy statements.
That's another interesting
You understand? People just bring falsified documents to prove that they actually have the fund.
Some are not even exactly
now, don't you think
some actually
just being paid. Now, don't you think people just pay to just get this license for 5 years?
This is Nigeria, that everything is possible. I mean, everything is possible. We just finished election. Another drama happened yesterday. So anything can happen in Nigeria. See, these 5 years, you will not be surprised that somebody graduated. This is 2023, and how to spend 5 years. You just see that the man has completed his 5 year by using the clearance to travel out, haven't settled the necessary, people. So it happens. We've seen, falsified that certificate by some people, but caught. Some were not caught. So it's Nigeria. So that might still play out. Now, don't be surprised. They're saying that people. Proof of fund, all of this, you just pay service charge and you get the money deposited into your account, and you get. So this is Nigeria. Let's not go in that route.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about fairness. Fairness, yes. And I want to say this from the view of an average medical practitioner out there, someone who has maybe spent 10 years, like you said, or on the minimum
more than
7 years. Because when you want to get quality education when it comes to medicine practice, in fact, any any discipline in Nigeria, your best bet is to go to a private university, which means on the average for medicine practitioners, you would have done 7 years in this country. Now, for people who went to public universities, that means about 10, sometimes 12 years. Now, people go through all of these, and then they're done with school. They try to get a job. Maybe they wait for 2-3 years. They don't get a job. When they eventually do, you offer them 80,000, 100,000 to become a doctor in a general hospital that does not even have proper hygiene and facilities. And then you ask them to work 24 hours a day. I personally witnessed that when I took my late dad to the hospital. I found out during that time that doctors in general hospitals, especially in Lagos State, work for 24 hours round the clock. I don't know any country where that is done. And they do that maybe like 5 or 4 days a week.
You can't get the best of them.
You can't get the best of them. I remember there was a particular emergency. It was at Ifakojai, and my dad was in the emergency ward. Then this emergency came in, and it was midnight when they rushed the man in. And the doctor was already asleep because he had been working from the previous night.
You can't get the best of
hours duty. And before we knew it, the person that died before they got the doctor in, the man actually passed.
It's not the fault of the doctor.
That was the end of it. Now, you see these processes, and many doctors in Nigeria look abroad. They read they see what's going on online. And we've heard stories that even nurses earn times 5 times 10 of what
doctors
a doctor is
Yeah.
earning here. And then they're like, okay, why not just seek greener pastures? Because when you look at it, they have children to raise. Some of them have family members to help. And you want to just holistically look at it and say, is this a fair deal?
It's not fair.
From
I have said it,
government?
yeah, when we started, it's not fair. It's not fair because they are not considering the cost of raising a medical doctor in a family. You know, in some family, some other children will have to stop their education before they can raise one medical doctor. So
Right.
now, yeah. So when
And they have to wait for the others. You hear that when your brother is done with school, you start paying your school fees.
So that's so they are not the honorable Ganiyu is not being fair.
And
It's not being fair.
Don't you
because see, Nigeria thing, I don't know why we just bring something. We have serious issue on ground that we are not talking about. All of these things to it's not being fair. It's not being fair. I don't want to say something. It's not being fair. Let me just say that.
Okay, let's look at it from the flip side. Now, let's just do a little statistics here. A large number has migrated. Now we have the empty space. Don't you think mandating people to actually wait would, in a way, help us fill up that space? That empty space
Like
we already have.
unemployment.
Like, you understand? Thank you. Thank you for bringing me that.
The thing is, if you do what you're supposed to do, you don't need to beg. Even if your own citizens are not willing, people can come in. Before now, we discussed it here that even before now, our university, we used to have foreign students, but that is actually history now.
Yes.
So now, even in some profession like healthcare and the rest of it, you can have foreigners to come and say, oh, we want to work. But in what environment?
Can we really have that?
Where we don't have security, where we don't have light, where we don't have, in the hospital, there is no facility, there is no tools to work with. They won't come.
In reality, with or without the bill, there's a lot of gaps to fill
yes.
when it comes to employing medical professionals.
It's not
because
only medical.
if they are filling the gaps, I don't think a doctor will be working 24 hours.
That's
a long time for a medical practitioner to actually
Even for anybody.
For anybody. I don't think I can survive that anyway.
And they will just do the little they can and just leave everyone.
Leave the rest.
They can't kill themselves.
Do their best and leave the rest. Now, you mentioned earlier how the National Assembly, or I say the senators have, or the House of Reps, basically the legislature have thrown away some bills that seem to be
good ones,
or that are important to the nation. Now, a colleague of mine was talking some time ago and said the 9th Assembly have passed more bills or assigned more bills into law than the 8th or the 7th Assembly. And I read about it and I found out that they've signed almost 800 and something bills. They've had about 1,000 hearings as an assembly. Now, many of these bills, they seem like a solution. But then when you have an in-depth analysis of some of these bills, you may find out that, okay, there are better ways to solve this problem than this way you are going about it. Now, let's go back to the bill we are discussing. What are the better ways to solve this problem? Because you've said right here that it's just a way to waste time and it's not fair.
For relevancy.
And it's just for relevance. Now, what are the better ways to solve the Jackpot syndrome problem that we have in the medical sector?
Not only medical sector.
Now I want us to narrow it down, because if we go outside that, it's going to we're going to spend the whole day here.
Well, for me, like I said, if an enabling environment is being created, you don't need to beg people to wait. They will definitely wait. The system will allow them to take it. What am I going elsewhere for when I have it here? So, but we don't have a system that works in Nigeria. We don't have a working system that works for this medical. That's the reason why they are. And it's a normal thing that when you offer me better pay or better working environment, it's not, most times it's not even pay, but working environment, conducive environment. That's the reason why some people change that and say, oh, I have to leave. So it is, let the government, federal government, NANS, create enabling environment. You know, these doctors, sometimes they protest on 2 or 3 occasions that their members were being kidnapped by the untouched bandits. That somebody said they are our army in the bush. and the man is still working free. You know, well, and they have to pay ransom, and they have to, no, I think in Cross River, they have to go on strike before their member. So it can't continue like that. You play politics with everything, and you are not facing reality, and you expect we continue to have, see, it's like I mentioned, it's not only medical sector that we're talking about, even finance, even your you know, you can't, like media too is cage. You can't even report the thing the way it is. NBC will somehow use something and say you are so
let's just imagine the bill is actually passed into law. What could be the ripple effect? What could be the consequences that could, you know, come out of that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, instead of me wasting, if I'm to fall in that category, I would rather do school in Nigeria. Yeah, than spend the number of years and money and see somebody is caging me because his own child or children are not here to face the same music. So I would rather do school in Nigeria. There are neighboring countries, of course, that go to Benin Republic. The number of students, Nigerians, who are school in Benin Republic and Ghana, they are more than even the country.
But then that brings to mind another part of this entire bill, because the bill says that those who studied in Nigeria cannot. So if you do not school in Nigeria, and you are Nigerian, you are exempted.
I'm exempted. That's it.
Then
because their own children are exempted from
what about those?
And that's the reason why they could, you know.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect.
It doesn't affect their own children. Their children go school abroad. So
now, what about those who may want to? Because in this country or anywhere in the world, there's usually always an exception or a way out of whatever problem life has thrown at you. We've seen people in this country. I can tell that, although I don't have any statistics or data to back it up, but from the little here and there that I've heard, I can tell that most of the people that are traveling out are doing so by education. Even those who don't need masters.
Oh yes.
Those who don't need a PhD and whatever, they travel. So if you say you have to work for 5 years and a medical student just feels, okay, I'll just go and do my masters abroad and just evade that. So don't you think that is? Yeah, don't you see that?
Is that even the first degree?
There's usually another.
Even the first degree, instead of being, master, even the first degree.
No, I'm talking about those that
face the strike and
in the country.
I'm talking about our medical graduates that are already on.
I will travel. So I don't want to practice. I want to go and further my education before I come to practice.
I think that just answers the question I asked earlier about how it would even even be effective. Because Nigerians would always find a way.
Yeah.
We've seen, I know a particular family that the father, the mother, and 3 children left the country based on the mother's education.
Yes.
Just master's students and dependents. They all
left. Yes.
And the plan was that once she's done with master's, she will register again for another course, and she will keep registering. By the time she's done with like 3 other degrees in 7 years, she would have a residency.
Oh yes.
And that would just be the end.
That's a route a lot of people are actually going to have.
Well, any final remarks?
Senator Ganiyu, please find something else to bring on board on the floor, please. I'm not happy hearing this. Please, the 10th Assembly, please. We want more from 10th Assembly. We want a Nigeria that works for everybody, not a Nigeria that works for the selected. We want a system that everybody, even be you anybody, be you son of carpenter, farmer, you can be relevant. That's a system, that's a Nigeria where everybody can be proud of. We want a Nigeria that is secure. We want a Nigeria that provides basic amenities. That, of course, the reason why the jackpot, housing is not affordable. We have housing deficit, see, housing is still not affordable. So we want a system that works. I will have expect Honorable Ghani to propose a bill to make some house built up. They must be occupied. If a house is idle for a period of time, government should take it over. Because you see some houses built up in some places because of the rent and the price tagged. People cannot afford it, and we still have it in housing deficit. So that's kind of because housing is a necessity, food is a necessity. I want Honorable Ghani to sponsor a bill and mandate each of the local government to have a product each they are producing. I mean food. When you solve the problem of food and housing, Oh my God. So I want a 10 assembly that will reason well and give us a better Nigeria that everybody will be proud of.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
You very much Mr.
On that
Ademola.
housing comment, I don't see how feasible that is because there are a lot of empty houses in
Oh yes,
owned by
these same people.
We'll go on a break now, viewers.
Thank
you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for
having me again.
All right, viewers, we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, Daybreak Africa continues.